we do this not just for our children, but for ourselves. Our kids, especially those who are highly sensitive, mirror and amplify what we are putting out. If we cannot start to speak to ourselves with kindness when we have sensory needs or when we need to self-soothe or regulate our own nervous system to find that resonance, we are showing them that they have to conform to external expectations and not internal needs.
Hey mama, are you feeling like you're walking on eggshells around your little one? Does every day feel like a battleground from breakfast to bedtime? You're not alone. If meltdowns, sensory sensitivities, and communication challenges are turning your days upside down, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sensory Savvy Mama, the podcast for moms raising neurodivergent little ones. I'm your host, Victoria, and I get it. I've been there. The endless research, the frustrating appointments, the feeling like no one understands what you and your child are going through. Here, we ditch the cookie-cutter advice and embrace the power of understanding your child's unique sensory needs within the context of your family. We'll dive into practical strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you create a calmer, more connected family life. Because you deserve to feel empowered, not exhausted. Let's ditch the overwhelm and discover the joy of raising a sensory kid in a neurodiverse family. You ready? Let's go.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Sensory Savvy Mama podcast. This is Victoria, and I just wanted to say thanks so much for being here. We've been peeling back some important layers these past 2 weeks about understanding the sensory system. We talked about how the nervous system determines safety in protective states like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Today, we're shifting gears into something a little bit more identity-rooted. And what does it actually mean to be a sensory savvy mama? It's not about doing it all perfectly. It's about awareness and attunement and aligned action. It's about knowing how to support your child without losing yourself in the process. So first off, we have to dismantle the myth of the perfect mom. There's no such thing as a perfect mom. And consciously, we can agree that that's absurd. There's nothing perfect about parenting. There's nothing perfect about raising a child. It is a lot of trial and error and a school of hard knocks and falls. But subconsciously, we are all judging ourselves. And if I'm being totally honest, we judge other moms around us. Oh, she lets her kids do that? Or that's what she says to them? We are judgmental creatures as humans, right? We're always trying to figure out where we fall in the lineup or the pecking order. With the moms that I've worked with, there's this narrative that if we just read enough or try hard enough or stay calm enough, we will finally crack the code. But here's the truth. Being sensory savvy isn't about becoming an expert in every possible intervention. It's more intuitive and becoming fluent in your child's cues and your own nervous system's needs. One mom that I worked with described it beautifully as having resonance. When people say having a regulated nervous system, there's often this assumption that it means cool, calm, and collective, like a borderline couch potato. And I don't know about you, but if a young child is acting like a couch potato, I have more concerns there than when the child is really active and playing. But a lot of times, because as moms, we are stretched thin and even in burnout, we almost want a couch potato child. We think that, that would be a regulated nervous system. Or maybe it's that you made time to be a couch potato because you are in burnout. And so that sounds like something to esteem. But being regulated does not mean being a couch potato or even cool, calm, and collected. Especially when our children are involved and there is a threat. Whether it's an active, ongoing threat or it's a perceived threat, there are a lot of threats for our kids right now. And there are things we have to deal with that generations before us would never have considered. There's a hypervigilance that comes with parenting children right now. And I've seen that in other countries and other cultures as well. It's not an easy job to raise a child, and especially one who has higher level of needs and support. And maybe people don't recognize them as having a disability or a need for more support, and they put it on you. Part of the reason we have these conversations is that for a long time, neurodivergent diagnoses, especially autism, the early researchers in the development and diagnosis of autism initially laid the blame at the feet of the mother. And there are some horrible narratives about families and children, and those undercurrents are still, we can't fix our children, and you shouldn't want to fix your child. Maybe we want to because we don't want them to struggle, and we know the difficulties ahead of them when you don't fit into society. We cannot control every outcome for our children, but we can observe with curiosity and learn to translate what's really going on and start to pivot with intention and conscious awareness. We can start to build rhythms that work for our actual life, not an idealized version of one. So there are 3 qualities of a sensory savvy mama. Let's talk about those. So one is an attuned observer. Now, we've talked about this a couple times on the podcast. It is so much importance and weight to be given to your own intuition, that gut feeling as a mom about your child. Every mom I've worked with has these intuitive inclinations about her child, and 99% of the time, she is spot on. Maybe she can't name what's actually going on. Maybe she doesn't know the theory behind it or the specific sensory system, but she knows what her child needs. Sometimes being a mom of a neurodivergent kid is like that. You know where you are, you know what you need, but you don't know how to get there. That level of attuned observation, that intuitive knowing that you don't have to track everything, but you know the patterns. You know when the dysregulation starts to show up. You know when there are certain triggers and transitions that are consistently hard, and you are starting to figure out what helps bring your child back to center. Sometimes I see moms override that with, nobody's told me what to do, or if they do X, then I do Y and Z. Sometimes we override what we know deep inside with what we want to consciously know or be told to do. That is a reflection of our nervous system, and learning to trust yourself and your own intuition. When we have a narrative around this, there is a lot of stigma that points to that your wisdom as a mother is not to be trusted, and intuition is not a valid source. But I don't believe that, and I don't think that's true. And I think when we allow people to tell us that is not valid, that is not reliable data, that is not to be weighted in on the information we're providing, we invalidate ourselves. And I don't think that's okay. As a sensory savvy mama, you have to be really good at watching your child's nervous system, and especially stewarding your own, recognizing your own cues of overwhelm and taking steps to regulate yourself, to find that resonance. You're not going to do it perfectly, and you might not even do it consistently, but slowly you'll start to build capacity to respond instead of react. You'll pause before jumping in to fix it. For my own motherhood journey, it makes a huge difference in how I show up as a parent. When I was in burnout, I could not respond. I was constantly reflexively reacting, and I hated myself for it. I hated how I was showing up as a mom. I've talked about this before, but you know the Disney movie Moana, where she's trying to restore the heart of Tafiki, and it's this beautiful Hawaiian or Pacific island, lush and green and nurturing and loving. And in order to restore Tafiki's heart, she has to defeat and escape the lava monster. And it turns out that the lava monster and this beautiful island goddess are one and the same. When I was in burnout in that reflexive, reactive mode, I was the lava monster. But when I can attune to my own nervous system And when I can self-soothe or ask for co-regulation from a family member, best friend, or spouse, or who I have around, I take time to build in things into my day to help my own nervous system regulate. I can show up more as that nurturing and caring and abundant and lush, loving person and mom because I have that capacity. I can pause before jumping into fix it mode. I can move with clarity and with intention and with love versus just reacting and ending up yelling and screaming or responding in a way that I don't want to. And a lot of times those were the ways that I had been parented that I didn't want to do anymore. That's when those really came out. It didn't come from providing better support for my child that I was able to build more space. It came from attuning to my own nervous system and my own sensory needs. And how much more complex those become as we get older and we've been so conditioned. This is what this looks like. And how do I figure out what's masking and what's actually me? What do I actually need? It makes such a huge difference. And it is so worth doing the work. It was hard to put myself first, but it was so worth it because it benefited both of us, both myself and my child, in ways I never knew were possible. The last one is that we have to rewrite those scripts. We have to rewrite the narratives that we've been handed. We have to challenge inherited belief and the programming that good behavior means good parenting. We shift from feeling shame to seeking support and not allowing others to shame us for the way our child is acting. We start to replace fear-based script with boundaries and rhythms that honor both you and your child. Saying no to some traditions that are not supportive or bring out the best in your child. We do this not just for our children, but for ourselves. Our kids, especially those who are highly sensitive, mirror and amplify what we are putting out. If we cannot start to speak to ourselves with kindness when we have sensory needs or when we need to self-soothe or regulate our own nervous system to find that resonance, we are showing them that they have to conform to external expectations and not internal needs. It's not okay. And I don't know any mom that would say that's okay, but a lot of times our actions don't align with that narrative. So really looking at what does it mean to be neuroaffirming? What does it mean to rewrite the scripts we've been handed? Which parts of the scripts do we need to rewrite? It might not be all of it, but there might be a couple lines here and there that do need to be rewritten. We do this with self-awareness, knowing that maybe I haven't seen this modeled before, but I'm the adult and I'm the parent now, and I can do it differently. Getting on the same page with your spouse. And even if your spouse isn't there yet, like proceeding, hey, this is really important to me, and I need to do this. This is how I want to parent. These are the things that are really important for me. This is what I want my kids to walk away with, knowing, without a doubt. This can be really hard when you're in a season where it feels like you're spiraling and reactivity is the norm. But this is not a failure. This is your nervous system stuck in survival mode. And it happens far too easily and lasts far too long for many parents, moms especially. Sometimes what keeps us stuck there isn't just the hard moments themselves, the stories that we tell ourselves in those moments. The more we try to control, the more disconnected we come. We get stuck fearing the future and anxious and frustrated and circling around what happened in the past. You have to look at your own nervous system frequency and your thoughts. Are you in the present, right here, right now? What does this situation need? Or are you stressing about what could potentially happen in the future? Are you upset, worried, hurt, depressed over what happened in the past? And I'm not saying that we don't consider those things, because we do have to learn from things, especially when something happened in the past that's traumatic for our child and we want to change it and move forward. And we know what's coming ahead. They're going to school, moving up a grade, getting a new teacher. I don't know how this is going to go. How do I prepare them for this? How do I make this as easy as possible for them? When you are in that space, look at your own nervous system and the frequency that it's broadcasting. Is it in crisis? Is it seeking to control every possible outcome? Or can you ground into your deep-rooted values and respond out of that place? This was something that I had to learn the hard way when I began orienting around my values and I identified what my values actually were when it came to showing up as a parent. How did I want to be a mom? What was most important to me? When I began to filter everything I did through that lens, I didn't have to perform anymore and everything softened.
Hey, Mama. Do you ever dream of a calmer, more joyful life? A life where mornings aren't a struggle, transitions are smooth, and you can actually enjoy time with your child without constantly worrying about them? A life where you would celebrate your child's unique way of experiencing the world instead of trying to change it? I know you love your child fiercely, but sometimes the meltdowns, the sensory sensitivities, and the constant challenges can make it really hard to connect with your child. You're doing everything you can, but you're still searching for answers. You long for stronger connections with your child, a more supportive relationship with your partner, and the ability to balance everyone's needs without guilt. Enough mom guilt. What if you could achieve all of that? What if you had the tools to prevent meltdowns before they happen, to create peaceful routines and confidently support your child's sensory needs? The Sensory Blueprint can help you turn that dream into a reality. It combines a 1-hour intake interview, a thorough sensory assessment, a deep analysis that creates a personalized video review, and a follow-up strategy call with resources and recommendations for you. Imagine understanding the why behind your child's behaviors, building stronger connections, and feeling confident advocating for their unique needs. Imagine your child developing independence at their own pace, social situations becoming more manageable, and your home feeling calmer overall. Imagine enjoying more activities as a family and finally feeling like the parent your child needs you to be. The Sensory Blueprint gives you the clarity and support you need to create a more harmonious and joyful family life. Ready to stop wishing and start living? Click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Sensory Blueprint and finally create the peaceful, connected family you've always wanted. The Sensory Blueprint, because every mom deserves to delight in who her child is and create a thriving family.
Co-regulation is the average of two nervous systems. So if I'm spinning out and I'm really dysregulated and I'm stuck in crisis, my child who is highly sensitive is responding to that and not easily regulated. We compound the chaos. We spin it out together. We get stuck in a spin cycle. But when I can stop and ground myself and say, this stops here, and tap back into those values and know my sense of worth apart from the cultural narratives that I'd been handed, I start to parent from a totally different place. And I create space for my child to do the same. When I anticipate sensory needs before they explode into meltdowns, my nervous system knows what's coming and can prepare for that and feels confident to meet those challenges. This gives him a margin. It gives me room to self-soothe as a parent and then to co-regulate more effectively with my child. We have stronger connection. We have better, more frequent connection. I'm parenting from overflow instead of depletion. So here's a reflection to try this week. Pick one hard moment. Maybe something that consistently happens. It doesn't have to be the hardest one. And I want you to ask yourself, what am I noticing in my child's nervous system? What am I noticing in my own? What's one small shift I can make to support regulation, theirs or yours, maybe both? This is how we start to become more sensory savvy, not with perfection, not with a specific checklist of items that we need to do or things we need to say, but with presence and showing up, repairing when we make mistakes, asking for forgiveness, processing it out together so we can do it again differently. If you're ready to do this, I have 2 pathways for you if you need more support. The Clarity Lab is the do-it-yourself. guide to observing behavior using the sensory and nervous system lens. It's a great starting point if you want to explore independently and start making those micro adjustments. The sensory blueprint is more involved. So if you're craving more personalized collaborative support, we'll build a custom sensory map of your child's sensory system, their neurosignature, and identify some areas to help you create rhythms that fit your real life. Both options are linked in the show notes, and both honor your intuition, your child's wholeness, and your family's nervous system. It's just what matters most to you, whether you like to do it yourself or you want to walk through it together. I'm here for you. Now, before we wrap up this episode, there's one last thing I want to say. This was never explicitly taught to me in OT school. It was not something that I read about, but it was something that I felt and only fully understood after becoming a mother. Undercurrent of our experience as mothers, especially as mothers raising neurodivergent children, is shaped by cultural and systemic forces, by patriarchy, capitalism. When I worked with children with disabilities, I started to see how society places value based on perceived productivity. Kids who don't fit the mold, whether due to invisible or visible disabilities, they're often seen as burdens or outliers. Did you know that Medicare reimburses at higher rates than Medicaid? And right now, Medicaid is under siege. Systems aren't set up to support all children equally, and certainly not the families who love them. For a long time, I stayed away from these conversations. I didn't feel like I had the complete knowledge or education to really take these head on, and they're scary. I don't really see myself as being political, but this isn't about politics. When you become a mom, especially of a child who's a little bit different, you come face to face with this narrative, the story that your worth is tied to your child's compliance, that your child's behavior is a report card of your own parenting, that unless your child can one day contribute in a conventional way, they are less valuable. This is grief-inducing. It is rage-inducing. And it is not the truth, but it is often perceived as truth. So many of us carry this collective weight. Even when we understand the sensory system, we still run into a culture that wants us to normalize our child, to force them to adapt, to shape them into something more digestible, toughen them up so they can survive in the real world. Sensory savvy mothering says, my child's worth is not in their productivity, and my worth is not in their behavior. And our connection matters more than compliance. Being sensory savvy is not about mastering anything. It's about remembering who you are and who your child is and letting that truth guide your next steps. Next week, we're going to talk about rewriting that narrative, how we let go of shame-based parenting and begin to build a legacy of connection, trust, and values-aligned rhythms. Thank you so much for listening. You are doing amazing work. Let's keep going gently, bravely, and in rhythm with our nervous system.
That's it for this week's episode of The Sensory Savvy Mama. I hope you're walking away with some actionable tips and a renewed sense of hope for your journey. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Your child is amazing, and you are the perfect mom for them. If you love this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other moms like you find our community and lets us know what you want to hear. If you want to connect further, you can find us on Instagram or subscribe to our newsletter for inspiration, exclusive sensory tips, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and so you don't miss out on any new episodes. We are all in this together, Mama. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. One last thing before we go. While I am an occupational therapist, I am not your child's occupational therapist. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. As the parent, you know your child best. So please use your best judgment and consult with your child's healthcare providers before exploring any of the strategies or ideas shared here. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out.